Tracy Moore. I have been a citizen of Shelton for 30 years. We chose this city to raise our children because we loved the city, we loved the proximity to all other areas that we might want to visit, such as the ocean, Seattle, the state capitol. We just really felt like we wanted this type of place for our children to have a hometown. I've been a community activist for many years before I ran for election, and I have been an elected commissioner for the last 4 years, and I feel like there is much more for me to do. I like the fact that I have a unique voice on the commission currently.
So if reelected, what will be your top priorities?
Oh, definitely I feel like it is time for us to look at maybe a change in the form of government. We're over 10,000 population now, and that has always been like the turning point where we may move from commission to council form of government. My other priorities are to continue representing the citizens of Shelton, because I feel like that unique voice, I represent the citizens.
When it comes
Oh, do you want me to tell them? Okay.
When it comes to the budget, do you have any specific priorities for the budget?
There has been a lot of talk about the budget in the last few years, and I think what people don't realize is that we are required by law to have a balanced budget. So there's not a question of that. Balanced budget required. I think as far as budget priorities, I want to make sure that our that we meet all the obligations for state grants and loans that we have accumulated over the years. We have to meet our legal obligations for making sure that we collect enough money to pay the rates, pay what we are obligated to do. It's not a question that we have to do that, otherwise we lose a lot of the priority as far as granting a lot of the respect that we have as a community for being proactive and moving forward with fixing our utilities. So we have to meet those payments and obligations. As far as the other, there are a number of different ways that we can prioritize spending in the budget. My priority is to make sure that any decisions that we make are necessary, that they will move us forward, and that they are fair to all of our citizens.
So about a year ago, the city lowered permit fees, eliminated some connection charges and such. And the goal was to generate development. Latest information indicates that the lowered fees did accomplish that. However, depending on how you look at the numbers, not without some financial issues to the city, what is your position?
My position on that is pretty well established. I was against the way that we lowered the fees. And I think at this point that it's irrelevant whether we consider the resulting fee or permit increases as a success or a failure, or I think it was pretty clear those were going to happen anyway. I think what we have to do is, moving forward from this point, we have to look at our fees and make sure that we're meeting our city costs and making sure that any subsidies that we give are fair to all of our citizens. If, as an example, if we did the same exact number of fees for the 12-month period, if we did the same number of permits for the next 12-month period as we did for the last, under the same fee schedule we have adopted, as opposed to the fee schedule that we had before, we would be $250,000 dollars under what we would otherwise get. And we're not in the business of making money from the people that are applying for permits. We want growth, definitely. We want responsible growth. But I don't believe it is fair, and I don't believe it is, I don't believe it makes sense to take that amount of money out of our general fund that could be used for another police car, that could be used for another policeman, for other things that we would like to accomplish in the city, especially given that our permit fees were less already than the region. It doesn't seem to make sense to me, and I think there are other ways we could accomplish incentives for growth.
Should the city look at lowering rates for water and sewer?
Oh, everyone, there's no one on city staff, no one on the city commission that would not like to be able to give lower rates to our citizens. The bottom line is that if you look at the regional comparisons, the other cities that we are compared to, many of them have yet to do their infrastructure improvements. So they are going to be looking at higher rates in the near future than what we have now. So we have been responsible, and we have made improvements that in the future will really be shown to pay off. I have taken numerous classes, I've done workshops, I've met with various state agencies and funding agencies, and the general consensus is that our rates right now, we are obligated to, in order to meet the requirements of our loans and our grants that we have an obligation to pay our loans. And if we could certainly stop any rate increases and pass it on down the line, but I don't think that's fair either. I think that's used consistently as an example as to why our rates are what they are right now.
So let's talk about the city's debt. Now, I had a question that was about reducing the debt. The debt is the debt. There's not much you can do about reducing debt. However, outside of an emergency or another state mandate, is there a situation or project you believe is worth adding to that debt?
There's been a lot of discussion about that, and we've had to consider that in looking at water system improvements. And it's a gamble to not do the necessary infrastructure improvements. So I guess my feeling is that we have to look at what we're required to do right now, and I'm definitely in favor of taking advantage of the lower interest rates that we still have now. I don't want the city to have more debt, and I'm really happy that in the last few years, in the last 6 months, with the new finance director, that we have found that the debt that we currently have is much less than what has been promoted. And so we're in really good shape now. We have a really good credit rating, so to speak, because we have been responsible for collecting those rate increases that we need to do in order to meet our obligations.
Attracting business to Shelton. What do you think could be done to make it easier to bring a business into the city?
You know, I think number one is to stop promoting our city as a low-income, desperate place to live and to have a business. I think that we need to really focus on what is positive about our community and reframe the way that we promote ourselves to our community and to other places. We have an amazing location, we have an amazing wealth of opportunity, and we need to promote that rather than some of the noise that has gone out about, oh, we need your help because we're so desperate. I really believe that if we can do that, we will be successful in attracting new business. I think our first order of business is to build a community where people are happy to live, want to live, and through that, through a holistic sense of being, that our citizens will naturally want to support local business.
Well, it's pretty much known that you don't agree with the contract for privatizing garbage collection.
Oh yeah, that's a kind of, that is really well determined. I do not agree, or I did not agree with the privatization of our solid waste department. I think it was a big mistake. I think it's a real loss for our city in that this is a citizen-owned utility, and I don't believe that we fully examined the potential for revenue increases through taking more control of our recycling program. I don't believe that we gave a fair shake to continuing our garbage service. And one of the things that really is unpleasant for me to think about is that one of the reasons that we gave for privatizing was, oh, we're going to have rate increases. I look at the fact that we are going to have rate increases with Mason County Garbage, and we don't have any control over that anymore, and our citizens don't have any control over that anymore. And if you really compare the rates and the increases, it's not that much different than what we were looking at anyway. And we have lost the opportunity for a revenue stream with the recycling. So I was very much against that and very disappointed that it went through, but I hope for the best. I hope it works out. And I have nothing against Mason County Garbage. Rick Fredrickson's an awesome guy, but I don't think it's best for our citizens.
When we look to the future, what challenges do you see coming?
Well, I think it goes back to the identity and the way that we frame our community. I still feel like we aren't really appreciating the potential that we have for our community. And I think there's still a lot of fear and a lot of embracing of the, oh, we are a poor, depressed logging community. And we are not that anymore. We have to move forward from that. We have a wonderful new mill, which is awesome, but we are going to have to look outside the box and look for more opportunities to bring in different types of businesses. And I've been in contact with several cross-laminated timber businesses, which is a wood product, but it is the wave of the future. And so I think we need to try to connect with those type of businesses. I've also been doing some research as to the hempcrete, which is a new building product as well, which is green. I truly believe in green industry. If we can attract that, it would be great. I have actually, I've been successful in getting the interest for like the new rail industry, or maintaining the rail freight mobility, as well as the tourism rail. There's a lot of interest in that, and I don't understand the negativity towards that. And those projects are going on. I'm still in contact with people and the businesses. We've had federal interest in the Simpson Rail and maintaining that freight mobility, which we actually would be bound to have if we are successful in attracting a CLT plant. But let me just say some more about this. Sorry, I am really passionate about this. as well as the reframing our identity to make it an attractive place for people to come, we've made great strides in the way of the graduation matters, and our citizens want this so badly. I can see it because they are passing voting for increases in their property tax, for the schools, for the library recently, for our Shelton parks, for most recently there is so much interest and so much support for a recreation center. All these things are good, good, good. And so I believe that as decision makers, we have to follow the citizens, and they're clearly telling us they want more for Shelton.
You mentioned it earlier on about changing the city commission
Yes.
to council. What about just expanding it to 5?
You know, I haven't really done the research into that. I think that that is something that we need to do some research on and see if that is a possibility. There's a lot of community pride in being the last commission form of government. And so I would definitely support that if that is the way that our citizens want us to move. I've heard over and over that people don't feel like they're being fairly represented, that there is too much, there isn't enough diversity in our city commission. And part of that may be that we haven't attracted, we haven't made it attractive enough for other people to run for office. It is, you know, it's a hard job. It's a really hard job. You can't support a family on it, definitely. But I feel like some of the mistakes that we've made over the past few years, maybe not mistakes, but some of the issues that we've faced due to not having asked the right questions, I think that that possibly could have been prevented if we had had more voices, more eyes looking at the issues.
Let's move on to something that is considered more positive.
Okay.
Your opinion of Railroad Avenue.
I think Railroad Avenue looks fabulous. Personally, I've heard a lot of good comments about the new paint and the way that we've changed it. I like that Railroad Avenue improvements were a process that was citizen-led. I realize that there are a number of people out there that don't feel that they had a voice in it, but they did have an opportunity to participate. I'm really looking forward to, in the next couple years, and we have it under study right now, is a complete Railroad Avenue rehab from 101 all the way into the city. And I think it's way overdue, and it will be a really positive thing for our city, and I'm so excited about that.
So is there a specific thing that the city is doing that you would like to see stop?
I'm hoping that we move forward from our briefings, where our briefings are currently they're one-on-one with each of the commissioners, and I think a public briefing would be a really positive move. And so I'm hoping that we can accomplish that soon.
Okay. My last question. Give us what is known as the 30-second elevator summary of you as the best candidate.
Oh, I am the best candidate for this position. Currently, I am the only candidate who speaks out for the citizens. Our businesses are very, very important, but I have the support of a number of small businesses too. I am completely behind shopping locally and that movement. I believe that as we build a better relationship and more pride in our citizens, that they will naturally support our small businesses. I've always been a citizen advocate, and I will continue to be. At the same time, I will support our local businesses.